Pat McGuinness, National Housing Party. So I'm just going to go through an in-depth review of my 3-year door knocking campaign for my election, which is in Holborn and Covent Garden Ward, London Borough of Camden. And yeah, it's going to be a long video, so if you want to get a cup of tea, press pause and make yourself a cup of tea, come back and enjoy the video. So yeah, I mean, also please subscribe to the YouTube channel, please follow us on Twitter, X, and follow us on make friends on Facebook and Rumble and Instagram. We've got various channels all over the internet. Just look for National Housing Party United Kingdom. So yeah, I stood in the local election, which was May the 7th, 2026, and yeah, it's a long story, so let's get into it. But I'll just tell you the result to start with. Well, let me tell you about 2022, because I stood in 2022, and I wasn't planning on standing in my local area when we started the party, because it was a Labour stronghold and I didn't think there would be any point in doing it. But because we started a party, I couldn't really go around asking people to stand in local elections when I hadn't done it myself. I mean, I couldn't say to people, oh, there's nothing to worry about, you know, because people are worried about standing. And so I thought, well, that would be a good opportunity for me to stand and learn some things to help other people in the future. So I stood in 2022. It was a last minute thing, because we got the party registered in around April of 2022. We got the party officially registered a few weeks before nominations opened, actually. So and it's important to note that in 2022 there was only 10 candidates, including myself. So you had 3 Labour, 3 Conservative, 3 Liberal Democrats and me. And there was no Greens and there was no Reform, which is quite important to mention, because in the election in 2026, there was 18 candidates, including myself and my running mate Mark Vernell. So yeah, I'll just tell you basically in 2022 I got 214 votes, and I only campaigned for 2 months, and the response I got was so incredible, and I could see that the public, not all the public obviously, but a large section of the public were desperate for something new, a different party, a patriotic party, someone who's going to tell the truth about immigration and tell the truth about the refugee crisis, invasion, whatever you want to call it. And so I noticed that, and I got such a good vote. Well, I thought it was a good vote for only 2 months campaigning. I didn't decide straight away I was going to go for it. It took about a year. A year later, I decided, that's when I made the decision that I will go for it for the 2026. Because the London elections, the London local elections are every 4 years. And so, yeah, 3 years from the 3 years from the date of the next election I started. So I started in summer of 2023 for this campaign, the 2026 campaign. So I'll just quickly tell you the result of the actual election, and I got 7.5% of the vote, which is fairly respectable considering what I was up against. And there's lots of factors in this election which I'm going to go through in this video. I was hoping to get a lot more votes than that. I've got 217 votes, and yeah, the Greens won it. Hamza Chowdhury, he got 1,271 votes, 44.2% of the vote. And the second guy was Jim Monaghan. He got 1,176 votes, 40.9% of the vote he got. And yeah, I mean, it was a really tough election. So I got 217 votes. 7.5 election. And Mark Furnell, our running mate, he didn't come last, which was good. He beat one of the Liberal Democrats. I beat 3 Liberal Democrats and a Conservative. So it wasn't a total disaster, but I'm going to go through it step by step what happened. And this is the leaflet I put out in 2022, which was so well received, and which kind of started the ball rolling, so to speak. So this was the first leaflet of the campaign. That was about the housing. This is about the LTN road closures, which is a massive issue in London. Said some stuff about COVID, Christianity, the erosion of British traditions and culture, and that's the former mayor of Camden. And that was quite a big part of my thing back in 2022, because she made a video saying that people should support black-only businesses on one day of the month, every month, which is discrimination. As the law stands now, that should be discrimination. I mean, I like just to put it out there that people should be able to have their own businesses and deal with who they want to deal with, and charities for their specific ethnic group, whether it be black, white or Asian. But as we all know, everyone can do it apart from the native British people. So that was my 2022 leaflet. So it took me a year running it over in my head, you know, and I thought, you know, I looked at the stats. Basically, there's just over 8,200 voters in the ward. And each election, only 2,000 voters bother to vote. Well, that's what happened this time. It's 37% turnout. Now, the ethnic makeup of the ward, I would say it's about 50-50. 50% white, and then 50% like African Asian. And when in the 50% white section, a lot of those people are Greek descent, Italian descent, Spanish descent, you know, English, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, and quite a few other European identities. So that's the ethnic makeup of the ward. And you know, as everyone knows, the Holborn and Covent Garden ward was a Labour stronghold for many years. They would easily win with around 2,000 votes, and no one would ever challenge them. You know, no one ever come near to challenging them. And because of that, the Labour-run Camden Council decided to put the leader of Camden Council in my ward. Now, when I first heard of that, I thought, oh, good, because I'm pretty sure that I could beat him. What I was hearing on the doorstep, and they only announced that 3 months before the election. So I thought to myself, well, that's good, but it turned out not so good, and I'll explain later about that. So yeah, just to reiterate that in 2022 there was no Greens and there was no Reform. So I did a leaflet to kick it off, a thank you leaflet, to all the people who voted for me, just to get a leaflet out, you know, keep it going, keep the message going. That was about a year later after the 2022 election. So that was the leaflet there. That was my thank you leaflet, and just highlighting the main issues I was campaigning on: housing crisis, the LTM road closures, the drug problem, which later on I campaigned on. And in this one I talk about the discrimination of white and Asian businesses because of what I explained earlier. Many of you would have seen that video of the Mayor of Camden saying that, oh, everybody should try and vote in black only businesses. Because some people saw this leaflet saying, what are you saying discrimination against Asians for? Because like I said before, as the law stands, you know, everyone's supposed to be equal. And to say only shop from a leading figure in the area, official figure, the Mayor of Camden, saying, oh, you should try and only shop in black only businesses. We actually reported her to the police at Kentish Town Police Station, and the police they didn't know what to say about it because they knew it was wrong. And there's actually a video on that on John Lawrence's channel, NHP UK TV, when we filmed it going in to report her to the police. So, yeah, and also at Christianity, every single leaflet I did, I've mentioned about Christianity, that I'm a Christian. And I've also mentioned about the COVID vaccines and stuff like that. So that was my opening leaflet for the 2026 campaign. I hope you can all read that. So I did that, and then that gave me a chance to start knocking on doors, because I thought to myself, there's, you know, 5,000 odd people who are not voting in these elections, and you know, and I thought to myself, well, if I can get to them, maybe I could win it. And also, you know, a hell of a lot of people did not like Labour anymore, and so the door knocking campaign started. I was going out twice a week. Well, initially I said, right, if I can go once a week for 3 years, I should be able to get a good rapport with the public and hopefully get a good vote. But some days I wouldn't be able to go, so like not very often, because I always managed to go once in the week. But I thought there was the odd time I might have not been able to go, so I thought, right, well, if I go twice a week, I'll make sure I get that one evening a week canvassing. So I basically early on decided I'm going to go twice a week. Initially I was going to go once a week for 1 hour, but then I said, right, I'll go 2 hours in case I'm late, or to make sure I get the 1 hour. So it ended up me going out twice a week for 2 hours each time. And I did it religiously for 3 years. The only time that I stopped was I had an accident with my finger. I nearly had a really bad cuts on my 2 fingers. I had an accident with a remote control helicopter. So yeah, that was the leaflet that started the campaign, and I did 7,000 of those leaflets. Started knocking on the doors, and people were quite happy to talk to me. Also, the ethnic minorities were very supportive. They agreed with everything on my leaflets, and this was the following leaflet. That's our kind of warm-up recruitment leaflet. If we're going to target a ward, we're going to put this leaflet out first. And this is all about the private housing sector on the inside. And that's obviously about the social housing there. And that I've done 5,000 of those. Like, that was in 2024. And that was in the summer of 2024. You know, in the meantime, I'm still going out every single week door knocking, twice a week, and also doing other activism here and there. And then in 2025, there's a really serious drug problem in Covent Garden area, and it's popping up all over Camden really, but it's in Holborn and Covent Garden the most. And I just thought, this is just disgusting what's going on. There's people taking crack and heroin outside people's front doors, and they're just allowing it to happen. So I've got a bit of experience in drugs, and I know the only solution is to jail them. If they're doing it openly in the streets, they need to be jailed, otherwise it's never going to stop. They just don't care, because they know they're not going to get arrested. So I started a petition, and this was actually one of the mistakes I made. Not doing the petition, but the mistake I did is I did a paper petition, right? I should have done it on an iPad or something like that, because I collected around 550 signatures to support my stance, what I was saying on the leaflets, that only an automatic 4-week prison sentence will stop people taking drugs on the streets. And everyone wanted to sign it because it's so bad around there. It's just unbelievable. So the mistake I made is everybody was writing their email address in there and their phone numbers and stuff. Not so much the phone numbers, but the emails. You know, not everyone wanted to put their details. They didn't have to. It was optional. And so the mistake I made is they basically were writing their email addresses down, and I couldn't understand a lot of the writing. So when I was giving them an update later on in the campaign, I kept getting loads of emails bouncing back to me. Whereas if it was in an iPad, you know, they would have typed it in properly and it would have been easily read. So that was a mistake I made because you know, I've got a lot of support for the petition. Nearly 550 people. And I was thinking, if those people all voted for me as well, you know, but lots of things happened in this election, which I'm going to go into. So, yeah, that was the drug problem petition. I also done an anti-Zionist leaflet, and you know, our stance as a party is we don't support Israel, and you know, we don't want Friends of Israel groups in our political parties. We certainly don't want to be involved with any of the Middle East conflicts. But the problem is, whether we like it or not, we are involved because they're using our tax money to fund the RAF, and the RAF are supporting Israeli war crimes in Gaza, in Yemen, in Iran, and as a political party, we have a duty to speak up and say, no, we should not be doing this. This is wrong. Not only are they committing war crimes with our money, they're not even asking us, and that is part of the globalist agenda. You know, the Zionist globalist agenda, which Israel's involved, the American government, British government, all the Western governments are involved with it, and we need to speak out against it. The only thing what can beat globalism is nationalism. So I did an anti-Zionist leaflet, and on it I demanded that these war criminals should be arrested, and I did 2,000 of those leaflets, and you know, the Palestine issue is a tragedy because whether people like it or not, there's been like 70,000 civilians massacred in that conflict. Now, you wouldn't see me on a Palestinian march with a Palestinian flag. You'd never see me doing that. But they are being abused. It's war crimes, and you know, especially if you're a Christian, because many Palestinian Christians have been expelled from Palestine, which is the birthplace of Jesus. And how can anyone support a regime that's not Christian and they're expelling Christians from the birthplace of Jesus? That's all I'm going to say about that. So that leaflet went down pretty well, so yeah, then the next leaflet was in the early 2025. I done a newsletter, and the newsletter was a six-page A4 newsletter, so it was quite a big thing. So it was my manifesto, so to speak, and but before that, you know, the first 18 months of the campaign, there was no sign of reform, no sign of the Greens, and Farage wasn't leader of reform, and no one was really talking about them. But then all of a sudden, Farage became leader, and the reform surge started. And I'll be honest with you, there was at one stage in the election, I thought, well, should I pack it in? But I thought, I've been going for 18 months, 2 years. It's just stupid to pack it in now. And I don't like Reform anyway because I'm banned from joining them. And they've banned around 100,000 patriots from joining them, but they allow non-natives the opportunity to be part of their government if they ever get into power, which is just unbelievably despicable. So yeah, I tried to contact Reform because I was pretty sure that they wouldn't find a full slate of candidates in Camden. You need 55 candidates to put a full slate out in Camden. Now, we were hoping to have 3 candidates in my ward who potentially could have got elected. So I wanted to speak to Reform and persuade them not to stand against us, because they could have easily done it. And as it turned out, they ended up with 14 candidates short in Camden. So I sent messages out I'd met some of their candidates doing door knocking, and I sent messages for them to call me. I actually wrote out a big long message to send on to the organiser of Camden to please don't, talk to us. And we could have done 2 NHP UK, one Reform in my ward, because you get three votes. Most of the wards in Camden, there's 3 local election positions up for election, and the public get 3 votes. So you could vote for 3 different parties if you wanted to, or 3 of the same, or even you could just do 1 vote for 1 party if you wanted to. So I sent these messages out because the Reform surge was getting stronger and stronger, and they're a household name now. And most patriots in London are watching GB News. I don't watch it anymore, GB News, because it's basically anti-white and anti-Christian. That's the reality of GB News. But not a lot of people are that switched on, and they're just watching it, and they think Farage is the saviour, and he's not. He's part of the establishment. And but I was still willing to cooperate with them. I might have even said, yeah, all right, I'll stand in my ward and put 2 Reform. But as I said, they ended up with 14 candidates short in Camden, so that if they wanted to, they didn't even have to put a candidate in my ward. And these people I contacted to tell the organisers that I'm stand, they all knew I'd been campaigning for like 3 years up until the election. So 2 months before the election, I bumped into one of the candidates, and he's a good lad. I know his mum and his dad, and we agree on all political stuff. And I bumped into him, and he basically said to me that Reform are only going to have 2 candidates in Holborn and Covent Garden ward. And I wasn't happy about it, but it wasn't the end of the world. It still could have worked out pretty good, because let's just say the Greens didn't stand. It could have been like 2 NHP UK, 1 Reform getting elected, or 2 Reform, 1 NHP UK getting elected. So he said to me, look, yeah, he said they've just got 2, and I thought, okay then. And anyway, that right up until nominations, they announced nominations, and they added another candidate, a Muslim candidate. And I just don't know why they done that in my ward. Maybe it's because it become a high profile election, like I'm going to discuss again. But the disappointing thing about Reform in the election is they didn't even leaflet the area. Like, their candidates were door knocking, but they were just door knocking and passing a leaflet, like 1 leaflet. And they, I know people all around Camden, Regent's Park Estate, Somers Town. No one was getting any leaflets from Reform, and they didn't put an organised effort in at all in the London boroughs, which I think was a big mistake, because as I found out, there's a lot of people dying for a party. And so yeah, I got 217 votes. The top Reform guy, he got about 320 votes. So it's about 100 votes different. So you could say if Reform didn't stand, I could have quite easily got 500-600 votes, and vice versa. If I didn't stand, they might have got 500-600 votes. That was the patriotic vote, so to speak. So yeah, the Reform wouldn't cooperate with me. Another big factor of the election, which is going to take a little time to explain, is a guy called Andrew Feinstein. And he stood in the parliamentary election in 2024 as an independent. on the Gaza ticket, and he got a lot of votes. I think it's 9,000 votes. He took about 9,000 votes away from Keir Starmer, because Keir Starmer is our MP in South Camden, and that's where my ward is situated, Holborn and Covent Garden. So Andrew Feinstein stood for the parliamentary in 2024. Masses of support he had, masses, yeah. And I don't know him, I never met him, but I can guess that he is extreme far left, anti-white. I might be wrong on that, but that's the kind of people you're dealing with these Gaza. A lot of these Gaza activists. I actually agree on that issue, but they're actually anti-white people as well. So yeah, Andrew Feinstein stood in 2024. He had masses, like, he was a well-known name. He was a household name. Well, not in every household, but a hell of a lot of people would say to me, "Oh, is Andrew Feinstein going to?" And I said, "I don't know." And I heard his name pop up a lot throughout my 3-year door knocking campaign. So there was another group stood in Camden, and they're called the Camden People's Alliance. And turns out, I think Andrew Feinstein is behind them. Now, why he's not in the Greens, I don't know. But you've got a 4-faction split within the far left now. You've got the Greens, you've got your party, Jeremy Corbyn, you've got George Galloway, the Workers' Party, and you've got this CPA, Camden People's Alliance. That's in the Camden area anyway. And the Greens did a deal with this CPA not to stand against each other. So in all the wards in Camden, you didn't have a Green standing against a CPA. Well, I've checked a few of them, and that's what I saw. So the Greens, they stood in Holborn and Covent Garden ward. They didn't stand in King's Cross ward. They didn't stand in Somers Town ward, which is a neighbouring ward. So they channelled all their activists, all their resources into Holborn and Covent Garden ward, because they wanted to humiliate Labour. My election became a high-profile election, which is very unlucky for me. Because if the leader of Camden Council would have stood in the King's Cross ward next to me, they might have all steamed into that ward for the battle. But they didn't, and they came into Holborn and Covent Garden ward. And I would have done an anti-green leaflet if I would have known what happened. I didn't really get an inkling about what was happening until about 2 months before the election. I didn't know the Greens were targeting my ward. And, it was probably too late for me to do anything about it, because I had other things that I had to do that I didn't plan to do, which was quite time consuming. And that was targeting every vote of a personalised envelope. So you had the CPA, Camden People's Alliance. They actually won a seat in St Pancras and Somers Town ward. And our brave candidate who stood there, we was invited to a hustings in Somers Town. And they invited us, and then they uninvited us, saying that there's going to be disruption to the community or whatever, load of rubbish. And it was the CPA behind it. They were saying that they won't turn up if we turn up, and we obviously wanted to take part in it because we believe in these elections, and we believe in the democratic process. And our brave candidate actually went down there, sat in the audience, because they didn't know what she looked like, and she spoke up. After they was all saying how great democracy was, she spoke up towards the end of the meeting and said, "Well, actually, I'm supposed to be up on that platform, and you've cancelled me." So this is typical left-wing stuff. They're dictators, and they don't want the public to hear the truth about certain issues. So that's the Camden People's Alliance, and they done a deal with the Greens not to stand in my ward. And then the Greens didn't stand in the neighbouring King's Cross ward and Somers Town ward. So, yeah, like I say, I would have done an anti-green leaflet, because once I realised what was happening, I could see the two teams that you had. Labour were still have a big team in my ward, but I knew that I knew it was a good possibility they're going to lose, like even 2 years ago, because no one was speaking highly of them on the door on the doorstep. So yeah, so the postal vote, that's a big part of the elections, and everyone seems to think that they should scrap it. I think that they should make it mandatory that everyone has to do a postal vote, because it would make the turnout much bigger. Like I said earlier, it was only 37% turnout in my election, and yeah, the postal vote. So I initially said to myself, you know, I want to target the postal voters, yeah. But yeah, before all that, I did my newsletter to tell the population what my manifesto was, and this is a very big newsletter, and it had a lot of stuff on there. Labour's track record, the state of the lifts in some of the council estates in my area. You know, Labour's anti-woman record of the trans ideology. This is about all the road closures. That's about the road closures. That's the cycle lanes and no car parking spaces, because as everyone knows, these Labour councils are anti-motorist. And it's making life hell for a lot of people. I had a lot of support regarding the LTN closures and the car parking. This is about the local market. It's turned into a hot food market. That's one of the drains full up with grease. And that's about the drug problem. And just incidentally about the drug problem, long term, our policy is to decriminalise drugs, not have it selling it in shops. But government doctors should be controlling it with prescription only. Criminals shouldn't be controlling it. It's another big discussion about that. But they tried to do the hardline approach in America, and they've ended up with 1 million people in prison. And what they're doing here now is absolutely, it's not making any effect at all. The fact that it's illegal, the drug users need money for their drugs. There's a shoplifting epidemic in London. They practically decriminalise shoplifting instead of decriminalising drugs. And we try it for full. Have a look on our website, nationalhousingparty.uk. You can have a look at our policy in it. We try our solution for like 4 years. If it doesn't work, we go back to what we got now. So and this one on the back page of the newsletter, so Camden Repairs, just a total disaster, the repair service, and that's about COVID again. That's just their contact details. So yeah, this was my manifesto, so to speak. It's a six-page A4 open up leaflet. So that went out in 2025, early 2025. And by this stage, I'd had hundreds of people saying they're going to vote for me. And the final stats. So yeah, I'm just going to go on about the postal vote. So the strange thing about the postal votes is previously I was told there was 3,500 people on the postal vote list. And that's out of the 8,200 registered voters in Holborn and Covent Garden ward. And when I got the list for the postal votes, so every year I was getting the updated register to keep up to date with who lives in what houses and all that. And so I applied for the postal vote list around Christmas 2025. And they said it went down to like 1,400, and I was like, really? I thought that's strange. Like 3,500 down to, that's like over half. And I was going to do a personalised letter with my leaflet, my final leaflet, to every postal vote. Anyway, I ended up buying too many envelopes, and I thought, you know what? Why don't I just do a personalised leaflet in an envelope to everyone who's said yes, they're going to vote for me. And then I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to do that with the final leaflet, I'm still going to have to go round again, blinking leaflet in all the doors I didn't have a response for or whatever. So I decided to do a personalised envelope with my the final leaflet, and I did. It was quite hectic to do it, but we managed to do it. So I done I ordered 10,000 leaflets, the final leaflet, and the final leaflet was bullet points of these issues in the newsletter. I've done 7,000 of these. So I ordered 10,000 of the final leaflet. Here is the final leaflet. And I'll go through that in a minute. So I decided to do 8,000 envelopes personalised to every voter. Over 8,000 it was. And with the final leaflet. And I made sure that the electorate got that before the postal votes arrived. So we got that leafleted 3-4 weeks before the election. And at this time, I could see the surge from the Greens, Labour, and the Greens had obviously decided that they're going to put everything they've got into Holborn and Covent Garden. Or they did 7 different leaflets in 3 weeks. I've got 6 of them here. Someone else said that there was another one. I will have a look at that in a minute. But yeah, so I did 8,000. More than 8,000 personalised envelopes with the final leaflet with the bullet points of the things I'm campaigning on. Now I thought all those people on the postal vote, that would be enough for them to, you know, reaffirm that they'd agreed that they was going to vote for me before, and then they would do that. However, this didn't happen, and I think this is one of my mistakes I made. I should have gone and visited every single postal voter before they received their postal vote, and that's what the Greens did. But as I said, I thought doing the personalised envelope 8,000 and that, if you know, even in that situation. So the reason you do a personalised envelope is because if you just do a normal leaflet, one leaflet through a door, and there's, let's say, 6 people living in that house. One of them might be a lefty. They see the leaflet, chuck it in the bin. You might have 3 patriots in that house. So with the envelope personalised, technically every single person in that household should open that envelope and see the leaflet. But even then, if there's a hardcore lefty in there, they could chuck them away and make sure they don't get the leaflet. So when I realised what was happening, what the Greens were like, the Green surge was, you know, let's remember the two biggest parties in London now are the Labour and the Greens. So I had the 2 biggest parties going hammer and tong against each other in my ward. So I realised what was going on. So I'm still door knocking. I'm still going out twice a week. I went to a number of houses, Muslim houses, and 1 or 2 individuals have said they'd vote for me in the past, and they were all on postal votes. And I'd knocked on the door and they said, oh, we voted already, voted for the Greens. Everybody voted for the Greens. Very disappointing, but I did knock on another one with one of our activists, a new member, Mohammed. He came forward to help us campaign. He lives in the local area. So me and Mohammed knocked on this door. There was about 10 people on the register, and the carer was there. She opened the door. I showed her our leaflets, just wondered if they're going to still be voting for us, or will they be voting. She said, yeah, they all voted for you, and that was really good. So that was a Muslim household who did vote for us. I know for a fact that around 20 Muslims voted for me before the election and on the day of the election. I remember an Iranian student. She definitely voted me. She told me when she came she said to me face to face, she voted for me. Another Somalian girl, young lady, she voted for me. A number of cab drivers voted for me, Muslim cab drivers, because of the road closures and the parking situation. And so I when I heard what was going on with the Greens, I started going knocking on doors I wasn't going to knock on again, because I thought I'd done enough work in certain bits. And wanted to inform them about the Greens, that the Greens actually want more road closures, they want open borders, we're in a housing crisis, they want transgenderism pushed in our society, and you know, they want to reduce the speed limit on the motorway to 55 miles an hour. They want to roll out to 20 miles an hour throughout the country. And a hell of a lot of the Muslim community in my area are cab drivers, and the family rely on the cab driver, whether it's a black cab driver or Uber. So I literally had hundreds of Muslims saying they was going to vote for me. They agreed with everything on my leaflets. They want immigration stopped. They don't want more refugees coming in. We've helped enough. Want all the road closures open. Want more parking spaces. Want sex education taken out of schools. And we agree on the Israel issue as well, because, you know, I am anti-Zionist. And and also I made it very clear on every one of my leaflets I'm a Christian. Made it very clear I'm a Christian nationalist, and my approach is we need to secure the borders, and it's in the interests of ethnic minorities to support a party that's going to do that, to stabilise the country. Because the longer this goes on with open borders, it's going to become more and more chaotic, more and more divided. And I believe that we can secure the borders and stabilise the country and try and get on the best way we can together. Yeah, not together, but work together. And rather than what the Greens are offering, or Labour or Tory, or even, you know, reformist part of the establishment as well now. You know, obviously you've got Restore now, that's another subject. I'll go into that maybe in another video. But yeah, they were very happy that I wasn't an atheist. They were more happy to vote for a patriotic Christian rather than an atheist Labour Party person or whatever. But the Greens came in, and this issue of Gaza, whether people like it or not, it's a massive thing, yeah? There's literally thousands of little babies being annihilated with bombs that our tax money are helping produce and supply and support these war crimes. And if it was a Christian, like a predominantly Christian country that was happening to, we're not going to be happy about it if you're a Christian. And obviously, to their credit, they stick together. And so the Greens have come in and they've used this Andrew Feinstein movement, because it is a movement. They got, you know, they're very upset about Gaza. They're very upset that our government are still supporting Israel with spy planes, and the RAF protecting Israel from Iranian missiles, etc. So it's such a big issue. It kind of supersedes all these other minor things. When thousands and thousands of civilians are being massacred, road closures, parking spaces, housing crisis, although they are important issues, they don't compare. And this is what I think mainly happened, because, you know, I had hundreds of, not just Muslims, but Africans as well. I would say, so I'm going to go into the stats now of what was on my canvas sheets. A few days before the election, the stats were, I had 1,200 1,270 yeses on my, in a 3-year period. That's what I had on my canvassing sheets. I had 261 maybes, which usually are mostly yeses, and 345 point blank no's. So 340 no's, sorry, 345. A lot of people, they won't tell you face to face, but I'd rather they do, and it's not a problem. I don't care, you know, because then I'll just put no down, won't go and bother them again. So I know I had a little system with a pen, because in 2022 I used a pencil to mark off. When I started in 2023, summer of 2023, I used a black pen. And then a year, every leaflet, every time I'd done a leaflet, I would change the colour of the pen, so I knew, you know, how long ago I'd spoke to that person. Another interesting thing is I probably spoke to about 1,500 people. Probably maybe between 1,500 and 2,000 people. That's how many interactions I had on the doorstep in a 3-year period. Even going out twice a week for 2 hours each time, I still was nowhere near speaking to the whole 8,000 people. I find that a bit funny, really, because I don't know where all these people are, because there's quite a lot of big council estates in my area, and that's where the density that most of the people are, I would say. But all the other streets and areas, in little areas in the area, most of them are private voters, and I would say most of them are temporary visitors to the area, like they're working for a year or two and then they leave. But there is a considerable amount of permanent kind of lefty, white lefty, middle class people in the area as well. So yeah, I only managed to speak to between 1,500 2,000 people. I had 1,270 yeses, right? I could have won the election if everything went my way, but as I say, it turned out to be very unlucky. You know, Greens could have, if Camden Council would have put the leader of the council in King's Cross ward, which is next door ward, which Greens didn't stand in, this battle could have ended up in that ward and would have given myself. But then I had the reform situation as well to deal with. You know, so as it stands, you know, I think I've done pretty well, really, considering what I was up against. 7.5% of the vote. I was quite, I mean, I'm not going to lie, the following days after the election I was devastated. It was quite devastating, right? But when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, you know, you got Reform, they're on GB News every single day, and most right-leaning people are watching that now. So I did pretty well, really, to hold on to that many votes. And another big mistake I did, you know, another big mistake was on the day of the election, you know, we had 4 people kindly come and help and stand on polling stations for us. There's 3 polling stations, so including myself and Mark Furnell, my running mate, very brave lad, didn't even hesitate about standing in the election. He's a patriot, and shout out to him. And that's another thing, is throughout the 3 years I managed to like get 3 people to stand in the election. I'd never even met them before. I just met them through door knocking, and we stood in 4 other wards, one in Regent's Park ward, St Pancras and Somers Town ward, King's Cross ward and Clerkenwell ward. And you know, during all this I was leafleting those wards as well. I was the agent for all those candidates as well. But yeah, on the day of the election, one of my mistakes was I didn't get out knocking on the doors for all the yeses who'd said they'd vote for me. And the reason for this is because I was so worried about looking after the people who had kindly came in to help, you know, and I had to show them what to do on the polling station. You're supposed to take the polling numbers down of each voter, and we was collecting all the numbers, so then we know who's voted, who needs to be chased. And you know, I was just worried about all the people, making sure they're okay. So I just couldn't get out. I didn't have enough people doing the campaign, basically. finally, when I decided I was going to check all the numbers that had voted to write onto my sheet, it was so time consuming. And this is where the Greens and Labour had two big teams. They had a proper electoral machine like put into action. And like I said, the Greens done 7 blinking leaflets. 7 leaflets within 3 weeks, yeah? That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. That's the Labour Party defected to the Greens. She was a previous councillor. Another one there. Another one there. Another one there. I mean, I've never seen nothing like it. Because, like I say, the ward was a Labour stronghold for so many years. We're talking 50 years. And no one ever challenged them. So we'd never really seen a proper competition for the seats in our ward. And my final leaflet was this. That was the final leaflet. That's the main bullet points I was campaigning on. And I was getting a lot of support for them. That's about the drug problem. They're like our long-term national campaigns, which obviously are not realistic that we're ever going to implement them as a party, because let's be realistic, we're not really going to be in power anytime soon, are we? But that was about the drug problem. I wrote to the Chief Inspector of the police. I also took part in a campaign about a local kebab house who there's lots of antisocial behaviour going on there. And also, I can only describe it as an anti-white hate campaign was also happening against me. And, they were spreading rumours that I was National Front. And I've never been a member of the National Front. And the National Front were never coming close to winning any elections since like 1981, 1982. That's when they kind of faded away. And I've never hid my previous BNP membership, and I'm quite proud of that. Very proud of that. I'm never going to hide that. And these lefties know that. They know about me because they was in the hustings where our brave candidate went down and challenged them, and they were trying to read out tweets from my Twitter account and all this. They know full well I'm ex-BNP. But the rumour they spread in the area is National Front, this, that, and the reason for that is because National Front have always had a forced repatriation policy, and they want to attach that to any patriot. It's very damaging, and it scares people, stops people voting for you, and that's what they done. And it's dishonest. I've got nothing against the National Front. Just put that out there. All good people, but I don't think that is the political strategy we should go down, so to speak. I don't agree with a total remigration policy. Never going to get off the ground, in my opinion. But yeah, so that's what they did. They spread that rumour about me, and I got on very well with the Muslims. They're very polite, very, they're very interested in politics, which I found quite interesting. And my strategy is, you look at an area, if you're going to stand in it, you look at the electorate, you make a leaflet, and if they agree with your policies, you accept their votes. And you treat every voter the same. You try and get as many people to vote for you as possible, and that's what I did. I had over 1,200 people. I'd say half of those were like ethnic minorities, and half were English, patriotic, working class, white people in the ward. So yeah, they started spreading this anti-white hate campaign against me, and I had noticed it when I started going around knocking on doors again to remind people that you're still gonna vote for me, for us in the election. And I had spoken to quite a few white lefties, because there's a hell of a lot of white lefties in this ward. And this ward it's obviously a lefty stronghold still. It was a Labour stronghold, not anymore, but it's still a lefty stronghold. So I went round knocking on door to remind people. Now I can think of two or three examples, 4 examples of lefties. Like, it's common sense what I'm saying on my leaflets. And I remember one particular guy. He's like, I can't disagree with anything on your leaflet. You know, he was almost saying to me, but I'm not allowed to vote for you. But you're saying the truth, and I agree with everything on it. And I said, are you going to vote for me? He said, yeah, I will. I said, okay. I went back to that house, knocked on his door. He's opened the door and he saw it was me, and then he just shut the door like that. Not slammed it, but just shut the door. And I had that quite a few times where I had on my sheets that they wanted to vote for me, and then they done that to me. And I'm like, what's going on? You know, what are they saying about me? So, yeah, there was a dishonest campaign against me, which is politics, but it's just sad, really. But so yeah, the Greens obviously, you know, they won the election, but I did make a few mistakes. So one was I didn't get out knocking on the day to all my yeses. 2, I didn't visit all the postal votes before they got it. 3, I didn't, on the petition, I didn't get people to write into a iPad, something like that, so they wouldn't make a mistake, because that was very time consuming for me. A lot of them, I did manage to send them emails to give them an update on a petition, etc. But a lot of them, they bounced back, and it just turned into a bit of a nightmare. But yeah, so obviously, you know, I tried. And another couple of things is a week after the election, you had the Tommy Robinson event, 16th of May in Trafalgar Square. That obviously didn't help, because I should imagine the lefties were trying to say that I am a Tommy Robinson supporter, and I'm not. I've never supported him. I think he's a traitor to this country, to be honest. And, you know, they're basically trying to blame all the immigration problems of this country onto the Muslims. It's not fair. I am honest, and, you know, all of immigration has been a problem for this country, not just one group. I wouldn't have allowed any of it if I was in control at the beginning, 1945. However, you know, we are where we are now. And so, yeah, also there was another time, there was a UKIP march in London. And, you know, because I'm patriotic and that, the left, they're probably like linking me with these Zionist psyops, which is Tommy Robinson and UKIP, basically just trying to blame the Muslims for it. I don't agree with that approach. So that probably didn't help my campaign. So yeah, that's about it really. That was the campaign, and I'm glad I've done it. I put everything I could, well, not everything, because on the final day I just ran out of, well, a few days before the election I realised I don't think I was going to win. You know, also I found out that Reform are standing 3 candidates. That kind of sealed it, really, that I definitely knew that I wouldn't have a chance to win it, because, you know, people seem to think Reform are going to save this country, and they're not. And I'm hopefully looking to see what happens with Restore, see what policies they release. But I'm definitely not a fan of Reform. So yeah, that's about it. We've got a few things coming up. Hopefully a banner drop and a Raise the Flags event soon. Probably before the summer ends. But yeah, there's a 3-year door knocking campaign. And like I said, halfway through, not halfway through, like 2 years into it, when Reform started, the Reform surge really took off, I was sort of like, I sort of thought, well, if they stand 3 candidates in my ward, it's going to be a problem. Well, not only did they stand 3 candidates in my ward, the Greens put everything they had into my ward. This is probably the most important ward they targeted in the whole of London. And as I said earlier, the Greens and Labour, the 2 biggest parties in London. Reform is now one of the biggest parties in the country. And then we just had little old National Housing Party there. But we stood our ground, 217 votes with the help of Jesus Christ, 7.5% of the vote. I'm quite happy with that. I think that's probably the best vote out of all the micro parties around. And yeah, I am now the leader of the National Housing Party. We've had a leadership reshuffle. It's all to be confirmed yet, but we confirmed it in our officers' meeting. And yeah, just thanks for watching. And you know, we've got to stand in elections. You can't stand in an election or not stand because, oh, I'm going to lose. You have to stand. It's like you're fighting for your country. Whether you win or lose, you're going to fight for it. Or your family. Yeah, you know, you're just going to fight. And that's how I feel about the country and my community. So we need more people coming forward and standing up and saying immigration is wrong. You know, it never should have happened, but until people acknowledge that, we can't find a way forward. That's the most important thing. And yeah, and we need to bring Christianity back. It's one of the most important things, and a lot of the Muslims agree with that. And just going back to all the different ethnic groups, like Tommy Robinson trying to blame the Muslims for everything. The Muslims who attend mosques are probably a lot of the better they are better behaved immigrants than other groups. There's no doubt about that. You know, I don't acknowledge Islam as a real religion. I see it as I see Muhammad as an imposter, and I don't acknowledge their religion. However, doesn't mean I don't get on with them. It doesn't mean I don't have to. They don't think the same things about Jesus. They do have Jesus in their books and stuff, and they respect Jesus. And but doesn't mean I don't have to get on with them. So it's just, I just think it's wrong what Tommy is doing, and we know he's doing it for the Zionist agenda. That's the sad thing about it. He's basically been whatever has happened, he is pushing a foreign agenda, which is traitorous in my opinion. So yeah, that's about it. That's the 3-year door knocking campaign. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we will be victorious in the future. Christ is King.